you very much. So just quickly tonight, run you through a project we're about to embark upon to do some township planning, just so that you understand what's happening, can ask any questions, and if in case you receive any questions from these communities or the ones who might be in the pipeline but not in the first tranche. So what's the point and what are we trying to achieve here? Is we want to go directly to the larger towns and have some public consultation to find out what their main priorities are for the next little while, and that'll just help us to build better relations with those communities and also to prepare ourselves. So what that's going to look like is we have an online survey running. It's only been running for a few days and we've had over 50 responses already from the 4 different townships. And then we're going to go into the towns and do direct consultation, basically public meetings in their town halls, so we can hear directly from people what they'd like to see, what they value about their town, what they want to keep, and what they might want improved or new. At the end of the day, we don't want some giant big document for every town that no one's ever going to read. We want to keep it succinct. These are your top few priorities. These are what people want to see and what they don't want to see happen with their towns moving forward. It's probably important to mention that this is in our economic development and tourism strategy to do a township activation plan. We have previously applied for funding without success, so with Brooke Lee got on board now in the economic development role, we're just taking it in-house essentially and having a crack ourselves just with the support of one consultant who's going to help with the legwork and the consultation for reasons that I'll mention in just a sec. And that's just giving up the ghost, I'm sorry. Can you just go to the next one for me please now? Thank you. So as I said, the key reason is that we want to end up with some priority projects that we can then get organised for. I've found in life, I think I've been here for 4 years now, and we get a lot of, it's a bit like playing whack-a-mole sometimes, you get a lot of requests for community projects that seemingly pop up out of nowhere, so it'd be good to be a bit more proactive about it, go out to the communities and have a consistent list that we can work off of moving forward, so that in some cases they might be able to do budget bids for smaller or really significant projects that we would want to support from our own capital budget, and in other cases so we can get things shovel ready for grants, so that we don't have this situation that we're often dealing with at the moment where a grant will come along and a community group will approach us about a particular project, and it might be the first that we've really heard about it, and we're coming from a long way back, which makes it tough to be successful with grants, particularly against bigger councils and other people who have their own grants teams or hire consultants to write their grants for them. Sometimes we deal with progress associations and other community groups and they're not even aware that we have a budget bid process. And I'm sure those progressors have been informed, and I know that they all get an email every year. Sometimes those emails come during quiet times for progressors where they don't meet, or sometimes they've got a new committee who haven't learned the ropes from the old committee necessarily. So it's a really good opportunity for us to explain council processes as well and just get everyone on the same page.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
How do you choose what town next?
Yeah, good question. So we started at the bottom for a few reasons. I'm not sure if I've got that here or on the next slide, but essentially we started at the time with where the algal bloom was first affecting. Obviously it takes a couple of months to pull this together, and the algal bloom has since taken off beyond that. But in discussion with Andrew and CMT, we decided to start at Marion Bay. We worked around to Corny Point on one side because they were having some impacts that they were telling us about. We were already quite engaged with their community on a couple of matters. And then as the algal bloom progressed up and started affecting the oyster growers and fishers at Stansbury in particular, we headed around that way as well. So the first 4 towns will be Marion Bay, Corny Point, Stansbury and Edithburgh. And that'll give us a really good test run before we roll it out to other towns as well, because then we've got some larger and more financial progress associations and towns. Right down to Corny Point has about 120 population, so it's probably about as small of a town as that we'll try to include just with our limited time and budget.
So you're saying that's about the smallest?
Yeah, I would think so. So that would get us, we did skip Kabowie just because Stansbury were crying out for help, but Kabowie would fit into that category in quite a few towns as we go along.
Thank you.
No worries. And yeah, obviously once we've done a few of these, or once we've got them all, we can have a look as a council and work out which different priorities in which different towns that we want to really focus our energy on as well, that might be strategically important to Yorke Peninsula's growth longer term. As I said, we are engaging one consultant. That's the only budget that we're going to be using, but that's all coming at no added cost to ratepayers. So we didn't get the grant in 2022 when we went for it. We've got a small economic development budget. We've traditionally just used that for workshops for businesses. But for a couple of reasons, we've put a little bit of that money toward a consultant for this. One being that those workshops, we had a list of the type of workshops that businesses wanted that they told us through the consultation for our economic development strategy, and we have ticked all those boxes. And also over time we've developed some good relationships with other providers, and we've been able to still hold several workshops at no cost to council, so we've been able to keep that money aside. We've also leveraged relationships with the RDA and with the, what was I believe the artist, Northern and Yorke LGA, who have committed to providing some money as well. So again, with no co-contribution or anything. And the reason that we are using a little bit of money to engage a consultant is that this person's like a public consultation professional who can keep us at arm's length a little bit. So Brooke and I will be at all the meetings along with RDA, but we don't want it to turn into either a council bashing exercise or for people to go off track. We want them to focus on what they're there for and get a good outcome. So having an independent consultant just lead the way there will hopefully result in some good meetings. And as I said, we do want to roll it out to many other towns, so if you hear from someone who's hoping to be next, that's the intention. But we've gotten the ball rolling with the little bit of funding we had before those couple of aforementioned additional grants came along. So we're going to make sure we get those right first, and then we'll start talking to the other towns and move our way up the coast and eventually up the middle. And hopefully end up with a nice succinct plan for each town, but all put together will be quite a robust way for us to move forward with community development planning. And with that, I'm more than happy to take any further questions. Councillor Gray.
Really positive that this is going to take some information from the broader community, not just the progress associations, because they can be very narrowly focused because they need to because of budget considerations and what's a priority for them. What sort of methods of communication are you going to use to get out to that broader community? And are we going to be using like ratepayer contact details to let them know about this, or how are we going to do that?
Yeah, so far obviously we're promoting the direct meetings, but we do have those surveys running which we'll promote through traditional and social media. Austin's gone, but getting some free stories in the country columns about it. We are considering other ways that we can make sure that we reach the people who might be ratepayers but don't live here as well. Open to any and all suggestions, but to get back to your first point, that's very much our intention, is to have a plan that's informed by the entire community, not by the progress, because we know and I've experienced that progress can turn over and change their priorities, and this will just allow us in those instances to say, well, like we understand, but the whole community has asked for this, so that's going to remain our top priority. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? No worries. 4 public meetings coming up, wish us luck. Thank you. Thanks, Nat.
Okay, good evening guys. Just going to give you a bit of information on giving vehicle access into Wall Bay. You want to go to the next slide, Matt, please. So, I'll use my glasses and look down here. Haywood Park Road and Esplanade Bull Bay are sort of utilised currently as a shortcut by some heavy vehicles to access the Port Giles grain facilities. And over the last several years, the Bull Bay community have consistently raised concerns about, I suppose, during those heavy vehicles going through Bull Bay, particularly during harvest. Noting that there are alternative roads, obviously down the highway onto Port Giles Road. So, and that was also raised again last year when we had the heavy vehicle access strategy and the community consultation that the Progress Association and other people from that district wrote in relation to this issue. So obviously it's been going on for a few years, and we've been trying to work out how we can actually deal with it. I'm going to go to the next slide, please, Nat. So we've, just to get a bit of information, in the last couple of years we've had traffic counts down on Haywood Park Road and on Esplanade, and obviously during the, I suppose, the peak period of December, etc., when harvest is in full swing, there are heavy vehicles that utilise that I suppose shortcut. It's sort of something like about 37 sort of HPs per day, which is quite a few. They're looking at about 12 to 13% of the traffic on each day. So also note that none of those heavy vehicles are actually, they're all under 20 metres in length, because anything else is not allowed to, or permitted or now gazetted to go through there. So you're looking at your semi-trailer or your truck and dog configuration. So if you want to go to the next one, the next step, yep, obviously we're looking at staff. Got some advice from, well, we contacted HDS, have obviously done some work with us in relation to heavy vehicles, and there's a few places around the state where they've actually restricted vehicles going into townships. One probably is the most, well, I suppose, well known is Hardorf, and trucks going through there in recent times, but we're looking at restricting trucks over 15 metres in length. What type of truck that apply to, as I said, semi-trailers and the truck and trailer combination. I mean, obviously the restriction won't stop local delivery or pickup. Your next page, please. Obviously, it's any effect on the community. All it is stopping those smaller configurations going through that route, because everybody else who is carting grain, basically those Port Giles, has to go around to come down the highway and through to Port Giles Road. And how are we going to do it? So this is the signage we intend to install major entry points around the place. Obviously, we'll just there's the trucks over 15 metres in length, not allowed through, except for local delivery or pickup. And we'll put these at obviously all the major entry points, and we'll just advertise it on, I suppose what we call it, social media or on our website. There we go. It's not really going to affect a lot of people, it's just that they, I suppose they've been doing it for 100 years, a lot of them. It's just the community wants this, and this is how we're going to deal with it. That's it. Any questions? Yes, Scott.
Just some comments. I mean, I don't know what will they want, really. I mean, I've watched, there used to be trucks used to go through Woolway all the time, and slowly but surely, like, they picked up enough fuss, they lost their post office, they lost their shop, they want their own flag, want to be called another country. 37 trucks was that peak.
Yeah, well, obviously during the harvest, yeah.
But is that an average over every day during harvest?
That would be, yeah, that is an average.
So like most blokes down there could get 6 or 7 loads a day on that road. So you've got 3 different farmers on that road, on the council road, from Haywood Park through Woolway. So how do they get out? They now have to go out to the dip road and recordings through Paddy's well?
In saying that those farmers are in favour of what we're doing here. They've probably been the most vocal, to be honest. I won't have.
Shame, I mean, you know, again, we're pandering to a minority when we already know that there's only 30% of the vehicles that go to Port Charles these days for grain deliveries. Less than 30% now are that sort of combination. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, the vehicles are going to be coming in from Paddy World Road anyway. I think it's quite common knowledge now that Waitera has bought some additional land down there and want to move the marshalling yards off the public road and move onto their property. So I don't think at the end of the day it's going to make any difference, but this is annoying.
It's local government, mate.
It'll make a huge difference to that community. They've been advocating for this for years. It was the first thing that they mentioned to me as their representative when I joined council. So I'm really glad that we've moved in this direction. There's no reason that we shouldn't be using those main areas. We have been holidaying in Wool Bay since the 1980s. There is a huge amount of children that play around that area where those trucks go through, and I think this is an excellent step in the right direction.
Speaking of police, all right.
So I won't comment on that.
Yeah, no. Like all this stuff just requires resources.
I'm sure councillor will hear about it if it's not
Oh.
here too, and the public, they're free at any time to just put their hand up, ring their local constable, right, and ask for a bit of compliance checking.
I've been driving heavy vehicles for 42 years, and I reckon the residents of Wool Bay have been shook about this for 42 years that I know of.
It's something that, look, it's something that came out loud, long and clear during the heavy vehicle strategy consultation period. It wasn't just one letter from the Progress Association, it was multiple letters from multiple people, farmers included.
I'm pleased they had an input.
Yes. So, you know, this, I don't believe we're pandering to the minority. I just think it's been one of those issues, long-standing. People see the bigger picture. They don't want to, how would you say, be talking about this if somebody got bowled over. So, I think we're moving in the right direction. And it's a small gift.
Thank you, Michael.
Evening. Tough act to follow. Tasked with providing some further information on the recordings of council meetings. Let's just check that. Yes. IT.
Sorry, I moved.
Oh, what did you do? There you go. No.
Stay back to it.
It's a risk, Natalie, sorry. I did threaten it earlier. So, look, as you would be aware, there are many councils that do record, some even live stream their meetings. This is often through a lot of different mechanism. You're talking about YouTube, Facebook, Zoom, or their own websites. I think this really took off in the COVID years. So look, whilst many councils do it, some councils do it, I won't say many, and just to put it into context of the 68 councils that I went and looked through, 15 of them do this. So it's not mandatory to do it. It is, however, mandatory to provide minutes and records of the meeting. So just to put it into that context. So what I've found is I've categorised them rightly or wrongly into 3 categories here. So the single static, which is essentially one camera, which gives you a fixed point of view. You have multiple static cameras, so they're fixed lenses point of view, and then you've got the dynamic versions, which offer the object to be panned in on, zoomed, and for the camera and the lens to zoom out and articulate. So I've gone and taken the opportunity to present a couple of these options for you, because it is like the ice cream shop, 101 flavours. You can really cut and paste this into whatever type of solution that you would ultimately be after. So Natalie, can you click that next one? So an example that you see here is the City of Adelaide. This is a single camera which is affixed to what you can see would be either a tripod or the roof, given the infrastructure availability in that lovely chamber. It is a single line of sight. It doesn't zoom in, doesn't pan out. It's just recorded in that position for the entirety of the council meeting. So that's an example of the single fixed point of view. There's another one to come which gives you another perspective of it, which is the Victor Harbour Council. And if we go into the next slide, thanks Natalie, sorry for making you do this. So this is the second of those 3 options which I've listed. So this, you can see you have multiple cameras. So down the bottom, you'll have one position through the centre of the chamber, one to the side and the other side, and the opposite side, I should say. So what that will do, the reason why they've done that, obviously with the configuration of the chamber, you're not getting, if you look at the projector, Richard, you're not getting a face-on view of either side. You can get straight down the gallery, but on this one you can see the laterals on both sides. This particular meeting you can see here that they're recorded is like a Teams or a Zoom meeting, so they've presented the agenda. The next slide. Same again, just a different interface as you're viewing it, but again, 3 static cameras, not zooming, not panning, not tilting. They're fixed in that position. They're using a network and software configuration to promote these videos. And again, you can see it's either via a Zoom or Teams type of remote meeting with the agenda which is presented as well. Difficult for me to show a dynamic, being that these are still screenshots, but what I hope to capture here is this is a single camera from the best that I can see. It looked like it has a height advantage, so if you're looking in perspective of this council chamber, just below the second beam on our roof, but it is operated by an actual officer who will use a panel to zoom in and pan out. So here you can see the mayor, chairman of the meeting. When the speaker is talking, the officer will zoom in to that particular person who's talking. They'll then zoom out, and we'll go to the next person that's speaking. If you feel free at your leisure, I've got these timestamps on and date stamps. So this is on YouTube. You can have a look at what that's like from a viewer's perspective. It is a little bit disorientating, being that it articulates so much. If there's robust discussion, there's zooming in and out and going from one side of the chamber to the other. But that is definitely one option. So for those three options, obviously there's some costs associated with it, and these are indicative costs. And just as a footnote, they don't include any staff costs to set up and test and manage the recordings of any of these three solutions. And they will vary depending on the quality of camera that you actually buy. That is one thing that we need to know with this, hence why there's that $3,000 range. And doesn't include streaming because, as the topic of the meeting is, this is recording of meetings, not live streaming.
So can that option eventually stream?
Can do. It would just need a software which isn't native to the solutions that we have right now. It would be through an API. So that would be the cost indication of single static. You'll then go to the next one, thanks Natalie, which is multiple cameras. Obviously it gets more expensive because you've got multiple cameras. And then the third, which is the most expensive one, which is the dynamic one, which obviously with the software and hardware requirement of it gets quite expensive. And this was what was presented at the July council meeting last year, when it was for consideration for inclusion into a budget whilst there was no budget assigned to it. There is, however, a fourth version. And I picked up on the recording, just the audio recording of council meetings, which can be transcribed into a PDF as a record and also the audio of it. So there is a software which can be procured. It's not native to these microphones that we have in front of us, but they are very secure in being able to record. So it's, for that minimal cost, it could be that we do buy that license. I don't have any public facing costing, accurate costing on it. This is a guesstimation because obviously we'll need to get some quotations for it, but I think that would be in the ballpark, as well as your storage device that will be required for it. So that would be the fourth option. And here they are on a table, so you can have a look at those. That's the end of that slide. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, well,
It's a big option.
Don't do it.
So how much cable do it for?
$16.50.
Something just under 10 grand, right?
I wasn't going to put a rudimentary one up there, but there you go.
so can I ask a question on any of them? Are we expecting the staff to transcribe this at all, or are we retaining it as an electronic record?
It'll be an electronic record.
So,
There may be some software involved which can transcribe the audio into script. That, depending on the software that you go with, and you've got your banding range, then that will be the higher end of the range for that to be a solution with it. That's certainly one thing. The cost on staff time will be to manage the recordings. So the recordings will obviously go onto a device. Those recordings the next day, which will be stored in our internal devices and will be shared on SharePoint.
yeah, that's fine, but what I'm trying to get to is we don't want to employ somebody or one of our staff now another job of transcribing.
Yeah, correct. So, I mean, we're aware of artificial intelligence and what that can do. So, it would be a minimal impost. I certainly wouldn't be asking any staff to be transcribing word for word our council meetings. It would be something that would need to be done automated.
Ben, for that info. The options there for A, B, and C, or and maybe not D, do they integrate with the system that we've got at the moment in terms of the audio?
Yeah, great question. So the IT team were very forward planning in mind when they bought this solution. I think this solution was quite in 2020 or thereabouts. So this solution that you have in front of you is a part solution. It's a very good conference solution. It works on wireless, so you'll see up on that's your little wireless thing up on the wall there. So that's your wireless transmitter. The battery packs, which obviously come in here, so that it all integrates really, really well. The cameras which come with this are a 360 camera. So that would be part of your pan tilt, or sorry, let's do PTZ number C. So depending on where you would affix these cameras as well would be one thing. Software solution, really, really good. Obviously there will be some costs associated with it. The concern that I have with the fixed static cameras is how they will integrate and how we can manage, if we're going forward that way, how we can manage the audio with the visual. So that would be something that we would need to investigate further with, if we go down that path, the vendors at that time. What?
Ben, the first three, I think it's 16 and 68, we're doing A, B and C, A, B or C.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and how do you do the audio only? Do you know? How do you do it?
No, I didn't look into that.
Oh, that's right.
No.
I had a bit of a when we discussed this last time, and not in numbers, but I know there's one council that recorded it just for the purpose of having a record that's from the meeting as opposed to putting it publicly. So was that one there meant for, was your idea there to be just for us recording it for ourselves, or that gets put out for the public to access as well?
It could be for both, yeah. So, it's a public meeting, so obviously the recordings can go public. For it, it's just something that I picked up on a couple of meetings ago, which we were talking about, the new stems, etc., and what can be done, and recordings of meetings, whether we're doing it personally or otherwise, that could be achieved. So I just thought I'd put that into a left field. Roger.
Thanks, Ben. I'm all for doing something, but if we're going to do something, we're going to have to achieve something at least as good or better than what a gallery member has been able to provide to the ratepayers of this region. And I think that's been pretty well received by a lot of people I talk to, and if they need to reflect on something happened in a meeting, it's there. It's an actual recording, and it's live. So I think if we're going to do it, we need to be able to cover what happens in this chamber very adequately. I like the idea of getting it up and using something pretty wide angle that will sort of capture the whole, not just all the council members, but the atmosphere of the chamber. But if it needs to sort of focus on a particular speaker, whether it be mayor or one of the councillors, is the availability going to be there for, say, somebody at home watching a council meeting on a large desktop monitor can pinch and expand and zoom in at will on the person they want to see speaking? That isn't always there. I look at all sorts of things that we all do. Some, it's available, some it's not. So that's probably one comment which would sort of negate the need for somebody panning and zooming, because you can individually you could do it yourself. I'm not real keen on how we had, say, a Zoom meetings where you've got about three images on the go, and you really just don't know where you're going then. So that's one I'd be very cautious about. But I think there's, quality lenses now that can, with the right innovation, can do something pretty special to put out to the people of the region, you know, a really good image, a good record of what we're doing. I think there's so many people come to me and say, if only we could see a council meeting. We run nearly to Moon Bay, go right at the bottom of the peninsula. There's you know, the geography is large, and let alone going all the way to the east coast. So there'd be a lot more interest in what's going on in council. A lot of people say we really don't know what's going on, but if it's a particular subject on, or something that's really pertinent to them, they would at least look at that part of the meeting, and if it's live, it's even better, because it's not old news next week, the week after that, so I'm trying to look it up. So I fully support it. I did a little bit of asking around when you presented last year in that 50 grandish, but from a very reputable funeral director that does a really good job, and he was looking at some new here at the time, sort of come out with, I think it might be Digiflex, one of those companies, around about the 19-20 grand, do something pretty good. But I mean, we're in those early stages, and I respect you, and you're not going to ramp this up into quite a bit more research before we finalise. But with the here that we've got, the technology that we've already got, I think, you know, we've got so much investment now, and we can build on that. It's a win-win. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. Look, a couple of things. Yeah, you're right. I think if you're going to do anything, you need to be planning well ahead in the future, and what's been done with the audio system. It would make sense to continue with the solution that we've got now because it's already part done. We can look at the camera solutions as we get further down the track. I did mention, look, there's a number of ways that we can go about this and create a solution. At the moment, we don't have a budget for it. It hasn't been budgeted for this year. You know, we're in your hands with it. This is something that you want to pursue, but I think personally, if we're going to approach it, you give us a dollar figure to work with, and we work within that budget. Would be the easiest way to do it. Otherwise, I could give you 20 options, and you'll pick the 35th because there's many ways to do it. And that's why I gave those three bandings in that table, just to give you an indication and a visual indication through these screenshots is what can be achieved, just depending on what sort of resources that you want to throw at it.
So,
Councillor Fern?
Just thinking through this with a static picture at 10 grand, you can see the feedback going to be, you know, I can do that with my camera or my GoPro. Can you just articulate the difference between doing it with a cheap piece of technology and taking that away and then publishing that on YouTube compared to what you've investigated there for 10 grand?
Yeah, it can do. So one of them will be the visual quality, the other one will be the audio quality, and the way that it's recorded, and potentially like the transcript of what's in the meeting as well. That would be the one. I mean, we could get a second-hand iPhone and have somebody sitting in the back with a tripod, no problems. But again, it's the quality, I guess, of that the viewer experience that you would like to achieve in that. I did go and have a look at some of the average viewing of these recordings, and they're anywhere between sort of 40 views and 100 views, depending on what it's like. So again, yeah, look, to your point, Roger, if you're going to throw $50,000 out for 40 views, you question it. Absolutely, I would do the same.
I mean, just say with the audio first, and then you thought, oh, we'll wait a picture later. Can you do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you do it at a stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And either one of the three options of the video go with the audio together afterwards.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I could investigate a little bit further too with the continuation of the solution that we've got here. There may well be that we could get a static camera which could fold into this solution as well, so you would take off a lot of that price associated with it. When you've got multiple cameras too, like obviously you've got audio splitting devices and SDIs, and there's a lot which goes on with it. And you've got to look at what this architecture provides for us as well, and what we can do here. So there's a number of ceiling mounts, wall mounts, recess mounts that you can have a look at.
Councillor.
So with the dynamic one that you've suggested that hooks into this system, you mentioned that's manual as far as your zoom and pan.
Correct.
So there are councils doing that with automatic systems that are actually very quite cost effective. Are you saying that this audio system won't accept anything but that? Is that the restriction that we're suggesting?
No, I think the solution that we were providing with the PTZ or option 3, which is the dynamic one, that solution which I gave to you and costed did have a user keyboard which was driven by a staff member, which would be able to zoom in, zoom out. The problem that you have with the ones which are automated, they will sometimes pick up on body movements of people who aren't speaking, and it will pan to a particular person, and it's not the person talking, and may zoom to another one. That's the problem with the automation. It's with the solution which I had in this presentation. It does pick up when you do press your request to speak. So it will pick up through a signal that it's going to zoom into you.
And that's automatic then?
You can do that.
Can do that?
Yeah, you can do that.
So I'm surprised you didn't put Mount Barker up here because they've got a dynamic system and it's at level.
Could have put 15 up there.
Well, only because it's different to what you've presented, because it's at level, so you can actually see the councillors' faces as they speak, and that is dynamic. And I believe they only have 2 cameras, and I believe that they're very cost effective. So that would be a good solution to have a look at. And I don't know how many councils you've spoken to about what they're using, but I don't see that we should reinvent the wheel. If they're already doing it, this is probably an opportunity to canvass them and see what technology they're using, because there's probably some really cost-effective ways of doing it.
So no matter what system we put in, you can count how many views.
Well, the view count will come when you put it on the socials. So when you would put it on YouTube and whatnot, when people go and click on that and push play, that's a count. So that's where you find it. It won't happen when we go onto where you can get clicks on our website to see how often it's viewed.
When I lived in Darwin, I worked in the court system up there, and they have a recording system, but it's just for audio only, and that's transcribed. Every word is transcribed, and the person is identified by the judge or the magistrate saying, Mr. So-and-so, you're speaking now, you know. So, do we want to see ourselves on screen for a particular reason, or are we doing this for a record of our meeting? I ask people, do we want to see ourselves, or do other people want to see us, or do we just want to record the meeting? That's what I ask.
I think both would be records, a form of record. Yeah, but that dissolution, that can be done immediately. I would say though it will be a change of behaviour, because we, respectfully, like, these are microphones that they pick up when you're speaking to them, and it will only be recorded when you actually push the button. Or if I'm talking like this, it won't pick it up.
Well, there are some people that are quiet speakers.
Yeah.
So you wonder how you're going to hear all of them unless they're right up to the microphone.
It will be picked up through the microphone.
Yeah, but
If your microphone's
if
on,
I'm
it won't pick it
back
up.
here, I've got a loud voice, and I talk, now listen to me, you know.
But if that's off, it's not picking up anything, would you be able to my phone on?
That's what we need to do this.
I don't know. I don't know where I fit in this. I just don't see the point where the public need to see us. if they want to hear what goes on in the meeting. Let's go on.
I'll
Yeah.
check the far.
Two issues there, and due respect, Mr. Mayor. I think our ratepayers really would like to see the representatives. You can see the whole, the functioning of the chamber, which is really important. If you were just listening to audio thing, well, I think the interest in it would diminish, other than picking up word for word, somebody said this, somebody said that. I think the interest in council, which I'm really keen to see, such more participation and, trying to get stuck into the other things throughout the region as far as getting people interested in council and eventually running for nomination of council and so on. And we see that's been pretty visible in the past, whether it be the mayoral role or council role, we've had it to haven't even come to an election. So I think that part's really important to see what goes on, but more so, people with any sort of hearing difficulty impediment, it's really important to be able to see the person. You don't realise how much you do read. I know from being short-sighted, I take the glasses off and I won't probably hear everything Ben says anywhere near as good when you can see the person. So that's pretty important.
I guess we're all different.
It's giving the public access to the gallery when we've got a council region that is that vast as well. So that's the way I look at it. It's not reasonable to ask somebody to drive down from Adri to Midleton to sit here to engage with us like this. And I think it's great to have actually had a gallery recently, because there's been many years where I've seen that there's nobody sitting in the gallery. So yes, I think our region is different, and that's why we need to approach this a little differently. And that's why I like the idea of the live streaming and also that visual, because that gives them the feeling like they are in the gallery. And it's a bit like, you watch Question Time from time to time, where you feel like you're there and you can actually see what's happening around the table. Things like minutes don't give that description of all of the debate that happens around the table and what councillors are saying, what questions are being asked. So that gives the public a little bit of feedback that we hear and we're actually engaging and we're trying to have these discussions. And we might come to the conclusion that we all agree on something, but at least then they can see that we actually had that debate as well. So then they have faith in us as councillors that we're taking this role seriously.
I think for me, it's beyond ratepayers as well. If we miss an information session or a council meeting, at the moment, going back to the minutes isn't a way of being able to see that from the debate either, and you can miss information as well. So I see it as valuable for me as council, but I also agree that ratepayers also see it as a valuable thing. I just think we've got to be careful around the costings. We've got to make sure it passes the pub test, because putting out a really expensive system just for a handful of views, we've got to be careful around that too.
All right, any more questions? No? Well done, thank you, Ben. I talk about money, Thank you, Justin.
All right, thank you. This will be a joint presentation. So following the August council meeting, you obviously recall that there was a decision to waive the commercial boat rent fees. During that discussion, there was a request to bring back some further information in regards to the impacts of potentially waiving all boat rent fees, so recreational and commercial. So we've put together some information. We thought to give a broader context on the potential algal bloom impact to the budget. It was definitely worth also highlighting potential impacts on bush camping and caravan parks. So that's sort of where I'll hand over to Nick shortly, maybe to expand on that a little bit. But as you can see, the first slide there is in regards to the boat rent. So we've put just some detail on the actual income from last financial year, which we've detailed the income from the annual permits, the monthly permits, and then the single-use permits through Easy Park and the coin machines. and also added the detail in regards to the expiation income that we've received from obviously monitoring the compliance of the boat ramps there as well. So some reasonable figures there. So last year we brought in, I've sort of rounded it to the closest $500 there, 19,000 in expiation income for last financial year. This year we budgeted 12,500. So that's what's, I guess, relied upon in the budget. In regards to the income, last year was 163,500. The budget this year we projected 180. So there's a slight increase in there because we have increased the annual monthly permits by CPI. Plus we've also taken away the dollar discount for the Easy Park fee that was in play for the first few years of the Easy Park. So that's why that figure is slightly higher than what we brought in last year. The next bit of the table there just really looks at the first 2 months of this financial year in comparison to the same time last year. So you can see there, and I went back a little bit further in regards to the previous years, and 44,000 was around the mark that we'd had an income in relation to those boat permits. So that's just permits, that's not expiation income, that 44,000. Where we're sitting at the minute is 30,000, so on the basics of that, there's a 33% reduction in our income already for the first two months. That clearly can be for a number of reasons, however, highly likely the algal bloom. We've seen a stark reduction in the use of boat ramps on the eastern side of the peninsula, whereas the western side seems to be holding its numbers. Really, we've only got 2 boat ramps, Turton and Port Victoria, but yeah, their numbers seem to be holding up at the minute, but the rest is rather slow. In regards to the conversations that were happening around the table in August, Councillor Bittner also queried whether or not there would be any issues from a fish stock point of view. We did, that's in encouraging additional boat ramp use to get extra people to the peninsula. We did touch base with PIRSA, who did advise that they had no concerns with recreational fishing, and if it was a decision to waive those fees, that they couldn't see there would be an impact. However, they're in constant, discussion and works with SARDI, who would be doing monitoring and would have other avenues to address any issues that would come from the fish stock scenario. So I'm not sure if anyone has any questions in regards to that point on the boat ramps, but other than that, I'll perhaps hand over to Nick and he can go through bush camping and caravan parks.
Yeah, thank you. So clearly we've had the caravan parks and the campgrounds on special. Still visitation has been very low across the winter. August is always the worst month of the year, I should say, for caravan and camping in our region. You can see there 20% down on bush camping, but we're talking about being down on very little, and there could be a few factors for bush camping. We've only just, either yesterday or the day before, reopened Burners Beach campground because we lost the road in the storms. That's one of our most popular campgrounds. Unfortunately, one side of it, where we normally fit 8 to 10 caravans, is not fixable really. So we're going to reduce that down to 30 to 32 people at once instead of 40. That'll have some ongoing impact. But we're basically back to where we were last year. It's going to be a direct comparison one summer to the next. We just need to hope for the best in terms of doing what we can to market it and attract campers to those low-cost campgrounds. The caravan parks, we had a meeting just last week, went through a marketing plan for the next 12 months. We hope the algal bloom doesn't persist that long, but we want to prepare just in case. So they're down quite significantly. Part of that is that we've had them on special to try to get what we would say bums on seats. None of the individual parks are terribly worried about a significant drop over summer because a lot of their regular visitors book year on year. So it's a little bit like having a SACA membership. That's what I've been saying. You might not get to the cricket that year, but you don't want to give it up. Someone will take your spot when the algal bloom's gone. But still, we anticipate being a little bit down. We do try to forecast with our budgeting quite responsibly. So even if we're down, say, a few $100,000, we might have factored a little bit of that in and created a bit of a buffer for ourselves, because these things are quite unpredictable, but still clearly going to have some impact on the bottom line. Is there anything more from you, Dustin, or do you want to help me take some questions?
Yeah, absolutely answer some questions if anyone's got.
Yeah, Councillor Bittner.
Sorry, one now. You said that the income is down this year in part because of discounts. Do you have figures for occupancy to compare the actual numbers of visitors?
Yeah, I'll take that on notice and flick it around to councillors so I can get you a fully accurate picture. Yeah. Last we looked, it was not down at a percentage that would justify that decrease in actual costs, so I don't want to say the wrong thing, I'm sorry. But Marion Bay are going really well. They've got some work and staying in the accommodation, which always helps people over winter. Some of the others, even Point Turk, which is a real start performer, usually has been right down. So it's a little bit unpredictable, particularly because they're not affected by the bloom. But again, that gets back to our messaging. When you see the chlorophyll maps, Point Turk looks bright red, which looks bad, but many things can create chlorophyll, so it doesn't seem to be a direct result of the harmful algal bloom, because people are still catching fish off of there. And then even again, our parks, like we inform them of that, but they're still hesitant to market that you can come there and swim and fish just in case, because it is unpredictable. And we've just had the coldest part of the year for the water, which is when the algal bloom should be at its most dormant. It's only going to get warmer, and who knows what's going to happen moving forward. So they don't really want to say come and swim and fish if it could turn out that by the time the people we book rock up, the algal bloom is having a significant impact. Councillor LaFleur.
The caravan parks that we own, my understanding is some of those managers are on retainer and then performance-based salary, so if they're looking at 47% decrease in income in those caravan parks, it's going to significantly impact those managers. We think about the risk of potentially some of them saying it's not viable for them and leaving. Do we have any contingencies around that?
I wouldn't say we've put in place contingencies, but we had that conversation last week, and again, none of them are concerned at that level, because generally they do make the vast majority of their income from October long weekend through to Easter, so they're all remaining optimistic, but they'll take that on notice and sort of brainstorm some options. They get a very small retainer, and then they generally make 25% of our income is what we pay to the caravan park. So you're right, any reduction in income is a direct reduction in what we pay the contractors, which is good for council from a risk management perspective. We're not wearing that, but yes, that could have some impact on them, but they are all under contract for another year or two as well, and have gone pretty well the last couple of years, so hopefully we can help them to manage their own finances if they ever need it, to a level that's appropriate to make sure that they get through what could be a tougher summer.
Are they eligible for any of the government assistance given the council?
Yeah, so they're not eligible for the grants, but I should mention this actually, 4 of them have signed up and been accepted into the voucher scheme, so that should give them a little short-term boost hopefully. And then forward bookings are looking pretty good. We've had some cancellations, but they're all quite confident that those will be filled. So if someone leaves, and as long as they have a few days to advertise that spot, they're hoping someone else will come back in. The campgrounds are less predictable, I guess, because we don't have those year-on-year bookings. We'll just have to keep marketing that and try to drive some visitation. I'm sure they'll be packed over Christmas, New Year, because they always are. It's really those times outside of there that we need to try to keep people coming, because that benefits the wider peninsula as well.
I just want to also ask about fishermen, and the boat ramp waiving of the fees, I think we're going to be very careful about making sure that we aren't at fishing the other side of the Gulf. I know Berza is saying that there's no risk of that, but we have seen Berza's view change once they learn new information. And I'd hate to see us encouraging that. We've been warned about this by professional fishermen during the inquiries and some of those we've heard, where they're saying those professional fishermen are hitting the other side quite heavily. I don't think we should just rely on that advice from Berza only. I think we need to make sure that if we are going down that path, we need to make sure we have done a lot more due diligence around that. So maybe understanding how many professional permits are being issued from throughout programs over that side, or any other data we can get to make sure that we are looking at that.
Yeah, sure. I'll throw Dusty on that, but I'll just say that living up in Copper Coast, I've got plenty of mates who are having a field day, bagging out whenever they want, because as far as I can tell, all the fish are escaping and trying to get up that side of the Gulf. So there is some risk, I guess, of overfishing. And also, I did think when Dusty was presenting, those boat ramps over the west are busier than usual already. So is there a risk that we're going to create some issues with too many people trying to use the boat ramps all at the same time? I'll let him answer that. So that's right, if your questions
That's right. Yeah, look, we can certainly perhaps forward or maybe put up on SharePoint a copy of the advice we got back from Berza in relation to those fish stocks. But yeah, look, it's a good point. I guess the feedback from them was that SARNI are the primary have the primary responsibility in that side of things and are doing constant monitoring, and they have other triggers, I suppose, in bag limits and those sort of things that they could use to address it. But effectively, the email correspondence that comes back says really the recreational fishing, I guess, is a drop in the ocean, so to speak, compared to, well, I guess the commercial fishes that you were alluding to earlier on. But certainly something that we need to keep in mind if we are sort of encouraging an influx to that west coast. But at the moment, really, I suppose, unless we close the boat ramps, making the fees, or waiving the fees rather, is going to encourage them there. But at the moment, I guess we're not stopping them from all heading on the west coast as it is, even if they're paying their $8, I guess. But
I'm not at all suggesting that we should regulate, stop, or otherwise with recreational fishing. I'm just making sure that we are not encouraging something that might have consequences down the track, just because we're taking advice of one department in government. We know that are overloaded at the moment. We know that made mistakes with this album room so far and made some missed calls around that. So I just think we ourselves have a responsibility to make sure that we do some of that own investigation to ensure that we are. If we're going to go down a path of waiving fees, if we don't waive fees, I don't think it's our responsibility.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Lefebvre. I'd just say that obviously with our ongoing advocacy, we've been pretty hard on the need to protect the environment as well, so we don't want to inadvertently come across hypocritical at all. We're sending everyone over that west side, but yeah, certainly something for everyone to consider, so take your point, thank you.
And did I read somewhere that we're up 114% on boat ramps over the other side?
West Coast,
no, well,
That's okay.
there was some, I guess there was some data put together in regards to the transactions through Easy Park that we've had on the west coast compared to last year's transactions. That was, I guess, on the crux of that, 100% increase. However, we had the coin machines last year as well, so there's an extra component there that we were getting the daily tickets for over the physical coin machines as well, which is not, I guess, counted in that data that we had before. So yeah, visually though, I guess those figures do look a little bit higher, but if you consider that perhaps 50% of the single-use tickets last year were taken in coin, then really I suppose they're around the mark. They might be slightly up, but they certainly haven't lost any visitation.
Oh, thanks, Dustin and Nick. Just on the back of Danny's questions, if we waive the fees, then do we have the ability to track how many people are using the program? Is that the only way we understanding the usage is through the fee system?
Yeah, that's correct. Really, the easiest way that we can monitor that is through the daily use or single launch ticket. So the Easy Park app or website has a really good user dashboard, so we know month on month how many users at a particular boat ramp all over, how much we've taken in dollars on a particular boat ramp. But if we were to waive the fee, well, I don't think we'd be asking them to still obtain a ticket through the Easy Park. It would be unmonitored usage effectively. That's correct.
Yeah, so I guess that would be a risk if we can no longer get a feel for how many people are using the boat ramp, and if there's an escalated number, then we're unable to. My next question was: are we actually reporting back to SARDI and PIRSA the increasing numbers that we're seeing? Because I guess if they have a feel for the numbers that might be increasing, then they might reconsider the bag limits just on that basis. So I take the point that's most likely is the commercial fishers that are going to be taking far more fish than recreational fishers. But if we can be proactive about it, at least we're playing our part. If the department has sort of overlooked their considerations going forward, or just not considered that it would be an issue, but maybe it is.
Yeah, thanks, councillors. Like, I just thought I'd say that tomorrow night, obviously, we have another public forum where I presume there'll be either the director of SARDI, Mike Steer, or a proxy for him. So I'm happy to raise that with them and see if they find that helpful.
Yeah, it's definitely information that's easy for us to obtain and pass on. So yeah, it's useful for sure.
So just to confirm, we've waived the commercial fee, boat ramp fees, but not recreational at this stage. That's where we're at.
Yeah. So there was discussion at the council meeting on what that would look like, I guess, from a budget perspective. And I guess to drill down to the nuts and bolts, you'd be looking at around about 190,000 short on budget, albeit that doesn't take into consideration that you may well have less income than that anyway because less people are using it. So,
thank you.
I guess that's why it's important to look at. If you take that $190,000 hit, are we also taking a hit on the campgrounds and the caravan parks? And how much are we willing to accept when it affects the bottom line? Councillor Johns.
Thanks very much for your presentations. Nick Dawson, it's great. I guess just in support or in the same vein as Councillor Third, industry is really worth listening to, unless the commercial fishing industry. I know our own divers, and you hear reports about what they were seeing back in March in Gulf St Vincent and seabed, and it was just so far ahead of anything that was even coming out. So I think we've got SARDI, PIRSA and so on, but I think it's really, really prudent that we talk into the industry, especially ones that are on the bottom, like the shellfish, commercial fishermen and so on. There's certainly quite a distinct difference from Gulf to St Vincent to Gulf, Spencer Gulf, as we all know, but I think to keep abreast of it, the people that are out there see the ones that we really need to be taking a lot of getting a lot of input from where it's possible.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, we are in close communication with several people in those industries, but more than happy if you have any names or numbers to pass along with their permission. The more the merrier. If we can keep collecting information and then pass that on to people at higher levels of government.
Thank you, Kevin.
thank you all.
That's it. Thank you, everybody. See you on the